The man Roman Reigns is partly my fault. We were brothers, forged from the same fire, but I could have never imagined the monster that he has become.
Roman Reigns is the most dominant force WWE has ever seen. From his early days as a member of the Shield to becoming the face of the company, he has neutralized every strong adversary, slain beasts, and ended legacies. And when he returned as the Tribal Chief, he crushed everyone. Rising stars, Hall of Famers, legends, it didn't matter. Whoever stood against him, he stacked them and left them behind. He forged a reign of dominance that lasted over 1,000 days. Even after his historic title reign ended, the original Tribal Chief still reigns supreme. There is no name on the WWE roster he hasn't conquered, no opponent who hasn't acknowledged him. Well, all but one. Because if history teaches us anything, no king is truly undefeated. And no matter how powerful he becomes, Roman Reigns has never pinned this man. No matter how much he evolves, this one rival always finds a way to outsmart him. His former brother-in-arms, the one who stood beside him, the one who turned against him, the man who created the monster now known as the Tribal Chief, Seth Rollins, the only kryptonite to the Superman that is Roman Reigns. But to understand why, we have to go back in history. Roman Reigns was built for dominance, a force of nature designed to carry WWE on his shoulders. From the moment he arrived, he was destined to be the future. But his journey to the top wasn't a solo endeavor. Before he became the head of the table, he was part of something greater, the Shield. Together with Seth Rollins and Dean Ambrose, they weren't just a faction, they were a movement. Three unknowns in black, moving as one, destroying everything in their path with ruthless precision. Seth Rollins was the mind, the strategist who saw every possibility before it unfolded. Dean Ambrose was the chaos, unpredictable, and willing to go to any extreme. Roman Reigns was the muscle, the hammer that crushed everything in their way. For nearly 2 years, they dominated WWE, leaving legends in their wake. They weren't just wrestlers, they were mercenaries, bound by trust and loyalty. That brotherhood made them stronger than anyone else. And for Roman, that trust was everything. But every shield can be cracked, and when Triple H wanted to destroy the Shield, he didn't bring an army. He didn't try to beat them in a fight. He went for the mind, the one who could see beyond the battle, the architect. On June 2nd, 2014, the Shield had just defeated Evolution, proving they weren't just the future. They were the present. Roman stood tall, believing they had survived the war, that nothing could break them. Then the steel chair struck his back. Seth Rollins had betrayed them, aligning with Triple H and the Authority. It wasn't just a betrayal, it was an execution. For Roman, it was the moment that everything changed. Rollins turned on the Shield and rewrote history. He won the Money in the Bank contract, used the Authority's influence to stay ahead, and waited for the perfect moment to strike. Roman, on the other hand, fought his way up through sheer force. Every match, every victory, was a step toward proving that strength could overcome betrayal. By WrestleMania 31, he had earned his shot at the WWE Championship, facing Brock Lesnar in the main event. Reigns showed the world he was built for this moment, taking every suplex, every F5, and refusing to stay down. But just as victory seemed within reach, Rollins struck again, cashing in Money in the Bank and stealing the championship. Roman didn't get revenge immediately. He spent the next year climbing back while facing the arrows of fan boos and disapproval, all while Rollins enjoyed his reign as champion. At Money in the Bank 2016, they finally faced off in a fair fight for the WWE Championship. This was supposed to be Roman's moment to reclaim everything, but Rollins knew him too well. He countered every move, anticipated every strike, and won clean in the center of the ring. Roman had spent years becoming the best version of himself, but when it mattered, it wasn't enough. Their paths diverged, but they were always connected. Roman moved on to his war with Brock Lesnar, while Rollins became WWE's workhorse, winning championships and stealing the show. They collided again at Royal Rumble 2019, and Rollins eliminated Reigns. Reigns nodded, a silent acknowledgement that their war wasn't over, just postponed. Then, in 2020, everything changed. Roman walked away from WWE, citing health concerns, but something deeper was happening. He had spent years chasing validation, chasing the approval of fans who continued to reject him regardless of his hard work, chasing Rollins, and falling behind at every occasion. And after all that effort, he was still playing someone else's game. But not anymore. While Roman was gone, Rollins reinvented himself as the Monday Night Messiah, a leader who dictated the future on his terms. But when Roman Reigns returned at SummerSlam 2020, he was not the man the world once knew. This was not the big dog who fought for the approval of fans, who stood shoulder to shoulder with allies and enemies alike. That Roman was gone. In his place stood something undeniable, something inevitable, the Tribal Chief. Aligned with the greatest mind in wrestling, Paul Heyman, the head of the table, demanded acknowledgement. Jey Uso was the first to fall in line. And then, the Tribal Chief entered his God mode. One by one, challengers fell. Kevin Owens, Daniel Bryan, Edge, Cesaro, Finn Balor, John Cena, Brock Lesnar, Drew McIntyre. Some came for gold, some for revenge, some for pride. It didn't matter. Roman stood above them all. His empire was untouchable. But dominance isn't just about changing how you fight. It's about proving that no one from your past can hurt you anymore. And while Roman had crushed everyone in his path, one opponent still remained: Seth Rollins, the man who had shaped Roman's career as much as anyone else, the man who knew every weakness, every moment of doubt, every blind spot. By 2022, Rollins had become unpredictable, the visionary, a man who revered in his own chaos. But beneath the sequined suits and unhinged laughter, one truth never changed. Seth knew Roman better than anyone. He had built the Shield alongside him. He had destroyed it with a single chair shot, and he had spent years proving he was the superior one. Now, with Roman at his peak, Seth wanted to remind him. He didn't just challenge Roman at the 2022 Royal Rumble. He tormented him. He entered through the crowd, dressed in full Shield gear, their old music echoing through the arena, as if it were 2014 again. It was a mind game, and it worked. Roman wasn't fighting a challenger that night. He was fighting a ghost. Rollins countered everything. He laughed in Roman's face. He forced him to remember the man he used to be. And when Roman locked in the guillotine, when Rollins reached out his hand, the same way he had during their Shield days, it shattered something inside the facade of the tribal chief. Roman refused to let go. He got himself disqualified. He left Rollins battered and broken. But once again, he did not win, and that loss stayed with him. For 2 more years, Roman rewrote history. He turned back every challenger. And when the prodigal son, Cody Rhodes, returned proclaiming he would finish his story, Roman rewrote it instead. At WrestleMania 39, he crushed Cody's dream, just as he had crushed so many others. Then came WrestleMania 40. The cracks had begun to form. Jay had left. Jimmy had betrayed him, then crawled back. Solo Sikoa was a loyal soldier, but even Roman knew Solo was different. Silent, deadly, but never truly predictable. Cody earned another shot by winning the 2024 Royal Rumble. But this time, he was not alone. Seth Rollins was still in the picture, now the World Heavyweight Champion. He carried a title that existed only because no one could take Roman's away from him. And yet Rollins knew his title meant nothing as long as Roman still ruled everything. When The Rock entered the picture to reassert his family's dominance, it was Rollins who stepped into the ring, standing face to face with Roman and Rock. Because above all, he admitted the truth: Roman Reigns existed because of him. The tribal chief would never have been born if Seth hadn't driven that chair into his back all those years ago. It escalated into a tag team match, Roman and Rock against Seth and Cody. Seth succumbed to his injury. Cody lost his chance to have a fair fight against Roman. Seth, already battered and mentally defeated, lost his championship to Drew McIntyre. But above titles, his mission has always been the destruction of Roman Reigns. When the WrestleMania main event arrived, Cody found himself outnumbered. Jimmy, Solo, The Rock. The bloodline was relentless. But Cody had his own backup: Seth, Jay, and then the unexpected allies: John Cena, The Undertaker. The war was chaos, but when the dust settled, only 2 remained in the ring. Roman stood over Cody, a steel chair in hand, ready to crush his story once and for all. Then he saw Seth. In that moment, Roman forgot the championship. He forgot his empire, his legacy, everything. All he saw was the man who had started it all. Fueled by revenge, Roman turned. The chair struck Seth's back, just he did all those years ago. And that moment changed everything. Cody found his opening. He struck. One crossroads, another and another. 1, 2, 3. The tribal chief had fallen. Cody had finished the story. As 70,000 fans roared, as Cody held the title high, Roman lay on the mat, staring at the ceiling. For the first time since 2020, he had no control, no championship, no bloodline at his command. For years, he had been inevitable. But in the end, his hatred for Seth Rollins had become the catalyst of his own demise. The echoes of WrestleMania 40 haunted the air. The fall of the tribal chief. The moment Cody Rhodes finally finished his story. But for one man, the story never ended. It only evolved. Because for Seth Rollins, the war with Roman Reigns was never about gold. It was never about legacy. It was about the one fight that had never been settled. WrestleMania 40 was supposed to be another chapter in Roman's reign of dominance. But when the dust settled, the impossible had happened. He lost. Cody Rhodes, the man Roman had denied for over a year, shattered the myth of the tribal chief. And once again, Seth had gotten the better of him. Roman disappeared. The bloodline crumbled in his absence. But the one who stood tall in Roman's absence was Solo Sikoa. Paul Heyman, caught between the past and the future, could only watch as Solo did the unthinkable. He took the mantle for himself. When Roman finally returned, he didn't return as a conqueror. He returned as something else, alone, stripped of everything but his fury. Roman wanted one thing: Solo. It all came to a head on Netflix's debut of Monday Night Raw. Roman knew what had to be done. To reclaim his legacy, he had to take it back with his own hands, and that's exactly what he did. Roman Reigns defeated Solo Sikoa, reclaiming the Ula Fala, the symbol of his family's leadership. He wasn't the undisputed WWE champion, although he had taken back something just as important: While Roman waged war within his own bloodline, Seth Rollins had been fighting a battle of his own, one that blurred the line between reality and fiction, one that was raw, personal, ugly. CM Punk had returned to WWE, and the one man who hated it most was Seth Rollins. Decades ago, a young Seth had gone to Punk, asking for train him for free, only to be turned away. And when Seth finally made it to WWE, his former idol had walked away, spitting on everything Seth had fought to build. Rollins had carried WWE's new era on his back. Their war wasn't about championships. It wasn't a storyline. It was real. And it all came to a head on Raw's Netflix debut. CM Punk stood over a broken Seth Rollins. The visionary had been defeated, his body battered, his pride shattered. Then came the 2025 Royal Rumble. For Roman Reigns and Seth Rollins, this wasn't about earning a championship match. It was about one thing: each other. Two men who had defined an era. And standing in their way was CM Punk, a man who had made it his mission to claim the WrestleMania main event he had always been denied. The match was chaos, but in the final moments, 6 remained. Among them, Roman Reigns, Seth Rollins, and CM Punk. The tension was suffocating. Seth and Roman cleared the ring. Then they went after each other's throats once again, and in one swift moment, CM Punk seized the opportunity. He eliminated them both. Years of unfinished battles, of unresolved tensions, and Punk took them both out with a single move. But karma has a way of balancing the scales. CM Punk's moment of triumph was short-lived. Logan Paul, opportunistic as ever, capitalized. He eliminated Punk, but the war wasn't over. CM Punk and Seth Rollins locked eyes. The tension boiled over. Words were exchanged. The hatred was undeniable. But Rollins had no time for another war of words. He turned away. He swallowed his hatred for Punk because his hatred for another man was even bitter. Seth Rollins snapped. He delivered a devastating double-footed stomp to Roman's skull, a second stomp on the steel steps. The message was clear. This war wasn't over. For years, Seth Rollins felt like he had lived under Roman Reigns' shadow. Yet every time they stood across from each other, Seth found a way to outmaneuver him, no matter how much time passed, no matter how many allies Roman gathered, no matter how dominant he became, no matter which persona he adopted. Roman Reigns could never conquer his ultimate adversary, because even a decade later, that chair shot to the back still ruled Roman's psyche. And when it mattered most, Roman would fall to the man he had once called his brother. Roman Reigns is, without question, the greatest superstar of our generation. He has achieved everything sports entertainment has to offer, but he will never defeat Seth Rollins. If you enjoyed the video, please leave a like and subscribe so we can bring you more videos like this. See you in the next one.